Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cited and Infrastructured episode 70 of the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and today is Monday, February 22nd, 2021. And today we are talking, I'm messing up my intro. Today we're talking about Homegames infrastructure changes and some other stuff.
That's right. But before we get into it, how's it going, man? What's new? What's popping?
Not much is popping. It's been a pretty tame week, I guess. I worked on quite a bit of Homegames stuff and not really much else. Not a whole lot of video games, not a whole lot of much really, but we did get our marriage license on Friday, which is very cool. Synovia and I, we are indeed still getting married in April. And so, we had to go to the courthouse and experience that whole thing, which was super weird. It was like a kiosk. We had to apply for a marriage license on a touchscreen, which was pretty bizarre. But yeah, we got that. It was pretty exciting. Besides that, I've just been living a boring, coffee-free life and dealing with a couple headaches that have come up this past week from I think the caffeine withdrawal, or maybe just not drinking enough water.
I want to point out a couple of podcasts ago, you were like, yeah, man, I don't even get what is it called? The
caffeine withdrawal.
You're like, I don't even get withdrawals from caffeine, bro. I drink a whole pot and I'm good to go, homie. And you're like, I got headaches, a little irritable.
I didn't say bro or homie when I said that the first time. Right, that's point one.
True.
The second thing is that I'm pretty sure it's because I just didn't drink water. I haven't been drinking water. So normally, I just drink a full pot of coffee a day, and that's how I get water. That's my hydration for the most part. I drink water too, but not a lot, right? That's been my problem. So without coffee, I kind of just don't drink anything. And so that's been the thing. But I haven't been irritable necessarily. Today was a pretty shitty day in particular, but I was kind of okay with it in a way that maybe I wouldn't have been if I had been drinking a pot of coffee a day. So maybe that's a good thing. I'm still super fidgety. I bite my nails all the time. That's been my thing for 20 years or something. I've never been able to not do that. So that's still very much a problem. I think the general anxiety of being alive is still there, but I just don't care so much, So maybe maybe I'm in a weird middle period before I just fucking snap, but I'm fine at the moment.
I see. What's the marriage license like? Is it a questionnaire? Is it are you Joseph? Do you want to get married? Are you Synovia? Do you want to get married? If yes, click yes. Or is it a real thing?
That's 100% what the process is. It's hey, okay. What's your name, social security number, address, and phone number? Hey, other person, same questions. Cool. Do you guys promise that this is all real? That you're not lying about your name or any other info? And you say yes, and you get a piece of paper. This was the way that it was here. I don't know what it's in general or what it should be with the little kiosk, and then you get your little number, you're at a meat market, and then you just wait for your number. They call you up to the window, and then for us, they said that we needed to bring our IDs, and we did, but they didn't even check them. They were just you promise you're Joseph, you promise you're Synovia, raise your right hand and say, yes, you are. We said, yes, we are. And they were cool, here's this piece of paper that says you can get married. So technically we can get married at any point. We just need to have everybody sign it and have a witness and have a person marry us and stuff. But It's just a piece of fancy paper.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I think that there's a room in this world for a movie about two people who stole somebody else's identities and got married, and that person finds out that they're in theory married to somebody that they have no clue who that is.
Yeah, but then they find out that that's their true love. It's I'm married to Yazeed. Yeah. And then, yeah, I can see that.
They're dating somebody and they're supposed to get married to that person, but then it's oh, you're actually married, and then it's the whole road trip thing, and then yes, I agree.
Yeah. What's the sequel? You got to think about the sequel before you start the first one though. How does it end? Is it a cliffhanger?
No, the sequel is a new couple. We do the same movie with a new couple, but we switch the genders. So in the first one, it was a dude who has to go with Wallace. The second one, it's a lady. And the third one is when you give some representation. All right, that's when you're this is an LGBTQ couple. One of the letters from that, and then you're and then that happens.
And then the fourth one is when you do the gritty reboot, and it's action, and there's an Arnold Schwarzenegger cameo for some reason. Mm-hmm. Marcus from Gears of War. They all come back,
Dom. There's just one set in Gears of War, and it's Dom and Maria. Is the story of how Dom met Maria?
That was like the big meme in our friend group, was just a Maria for like a year after Gears of War 3 or whatever.
Yeah, until he died, and then you're just like, whoops.
Spoiler alert. Whatever. I've been meaning
that game is like old, Dom. That game's so old.
It is. But it's one of those things where, like, maybe if people think of Gears of War 3, which I don't think people do, but if they think of Gears 3 as a classic or in any way, like something to go back to, I mean, that story is kind of worth experiencing on some level for the first time in a cool way. People were like, oh, I want to go back to Gears of War, you know? I don't know.
I think the first Gears of War where this whole time you're, like, with Dom and then, like, you find Maria. And then, like, Marcus just leaves Dom alone with, like, a revolver and Maria. Ugh, that was hard to...
I think that was 2 like, or 3.
Was that 2?
Yeah, it was after the first one for sure, though. But he died in the third one. I want to say the Maria thing was the second. It might have been the third.
It had to have been the second one.
But I think it's like he finds Maria all dead and stuff in the third one. I'm misremembering because I played this game so long ago. But whatever. Point is, he's dead by 3. By the end of 3.
By the end of 3, he's not longer with us.
Yeah.
Also, the coal train runs on whole grain, baby. That's a great line to just throw it around. Nice. I thought having a marriage license was either like a test or that. It's like I didn't think there was much in between.
I was talking to my nana and Synovia's parents, and I guess when they originally got their marriage licenses, they needed to do a blood test with the person they were marrying to make sure that they're not related or whatever. But they don't do that anymore, so I guess like no one cares. I don't know, but that's not a thing that we had to do.
That's hella weird, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, like, Synovia's parents aren't that old, so I mean, they must have gotten rid of this thing relatively recently. What?
I wonder what my mom had to go through when she got married, because technically she got married in another country and then moved here.
That'd be
so I don't know what. Yeah. I wonder if she actually has a U.S. marriage certificate. She has to because she went. Anyway,
I don't know.
That's for later. I'll talk to her later about that.
Yeah, I don't really.
The weird thing to think about now is my mom going to the court to get a marriage license.
Yeah. Well, speaking of weird things to think about, just like the entire concept of marriage is like it seems like a cultural thing. Like, Synovia and I are, for all intents and purposes, married. Like, I've said this thing a lot, but I think that buying a house together is on the same level of commitment, if not greater, than getting married, because there's like financial things involved, and you're getting a mortgage together. Like, that's pretty intense. But getting married is kind of like the final put a bow on it. Like, this is as far as it goes. Like, you guys are it, you know, which is super cool. But it's actually a legal process. Like, the whole thing of marriage is like joining people legally into one entity. And so being reminded when you have to go to a courthouse and like deal with all this weird legal shit, not legal shit, but the government-ness of it. Like, this is a building that has armed security, and I had to like walk through a metal detector to get in here, and like that lady's walking around with a thing of documents. It's just paper, but she's fucking strapped up because like there's just like security here, and it's like a different world, you know. And like just seeing all that kind of stuff was super strange. I had a little moment of panic because I accidentally brought a pocket knife into the building, because I have a pocket knife on my keys, and it's legal to have a pocket knife in Arizona. You can just walk around with one. But in Washington, I don't think it was. So I never had one on me when I was walking around. But I think it's either the type of knife or something, but there was some sort of limitation in Washington that was weird. So anyway, when we were walking into the courthouse and we did the metal detector, I put my keys and my whatever, everything in there. And then at the end of it, the guy was like, yeah, can you fill this out, put your name and your phone number, because we're going to keep your knife and your keys. In my head, I was like, oh, fuck, what? Like, I brought a knife in here? Like, what a dumbass. It's like, did I have an extra knife in my pants somewhere? But
I brought a butcher's knife to the courthouse. Surprise.
But no, it's like a 2-inch blade on a Swiss Army knife, so it's like barely a thing. But anyway, I just thought they were going to arrest me or some shit in that moment of panic. Like, you know how when you get in trouble with authority, they're like not mad? They're just like, hey, we're going to need you to come over here. You're just like, oh, fuck.
I deal so poorly with authority. It's incredible. I stress out immediately as soon as like anybody in an authority position asks me a question. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable as well. But it was just like a super nice security dude. Whatever, it was cool. I guess it's normal. There was like 100 other names in the clipboard for just that day. So I guess people just accidentally bring in weapons all the time. It's whatever.
I think it's probably because people has idea of a weapon. Like, you probably don't think of that as a weapon, because you probably don't think of like, and I use this to shank somebody.
Right.
But like, officially it is a weapon.
Yeah.
So that guy's just like, he's like, I gotta do this legally.
Yeah, and it's funny too because like I don't have it with me, but it's a Swiss Army knife, and there's a bottle opener that I use mainly. Like, I keep it poked out all the time with the bottle opener. Like, there's a knife in it, but I don't really use that. So I use that thing for obviously for bottles, but I really use it for a weed tool. Like, it kind of like like it's good to kind of like a little weed spatula or whatever, and that's why I keep it out all the time. And so I just had it extended, and then I realized like what a fucking idiot I am. Like, I brought a Swiss Army knife like with the metal thing poking out in it. Like, I gave it to a security guard. You know, what an idiot. But it's fine.
That's very funny. I think there's like an interesting juxtaposition between like people's idea of marriage is like, oh, this like super lovey-dovey thing, and then you go to the courthouse and it's like, sign here, don't mess up.
Yeah.
Put your name, all your info.
Yeah.
Get out.
Under penalty of perjury, say you do or whatever. Jesus.
Yeah, if you are lying to us, you're going to prison.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild, but it's cool. Again, like, it's the formal thing behind the like process of being married, and the whole thing of like, yeah, we're planning this big crazy party, and we're gonna have a venue and food and drinks and people and blah 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 blah. All that is for nothing, because they're gonna say a bunch of words, and then we're gonna go in to this room and sign this document, and then that's when it'll be real. So it's like, all this is just the theatrics or whatever, but it's fine.
The piece of paper is for you, the party is for everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm excited. Like, it's the wedding stuff has been stressful, obviously, because it's like super expensive, and there's all this stuff to think about, like we were just talking before. But choosing the color of your tablecloth, choosing where you're going to get your silverware from, and yeah, you know, what's the dessert selection stuff like, and where's the table going to be? It's like, I don't give a fuck. But once it's actually here, it'll be cool. I kind of just want it to be here already, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure it'll be a good time for everybody involved.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
I've only ever been to 2 weddings, so, you know,
yeah,
I have high standards. No.
My first wedding was in October. That's the first one I ever went to. So it was like, okay, this is what a reception is and a ceremony. Like, I didn't know the words and stuff. I still really don't, but yeah, my frame of reference is relatively small.
Hey, but at least you have one. You're not going into it blind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is also a unique stressor that I feel like I have. I don't like going into anything that I don't research a little bit before.
Yeah. Yeah, but then it's like, oh, well, it's all up to you how you can design it and how you lay it out and the schedule. It's all your day. But it's like, yeah, but what am I supposed to do?
What am I legally
Yeah.
What am I socially obligated to complete? And what is the checklist for that?
Yeah, like, what do people expect, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
They expect food, drinks.
We will have
a good
that.
Time.
Maybe a good time.
Speaking of a good time.
Yeah.
There was an announcement at BlizzCon this year that
it's the Burning Crusade
World of Warcraft's Burning Crusade Classic Edition is coming out this year.
Is that your jam?
That is indeed my jam, which means that I have to go back to grinding Classic WoW.
Nice. That sounds very fun.
Yes. Well, all right, listen, here's the thing. I enjoy playing World of Warcraft in like spurts. Like, I can't Alex it in a way. Like, Alex will play a game in a inhuman way for like 2 weeks, like do whatever he wants to do, and then he'll be done with the game. I just don't have that kind of ability to devote time.
Yeah.
So I have to like do that over like 2 months. But then like after 2 months, I'm a little burned out. So then I have to like switch to a different game.
Right.
So I need to find a way to not burn out grinding Classic WoW, so that when Burning Crusade comes out, I'm not burned out.
So what do you need to grind for? Like I've never played WoW. Well, I don't have any WoW account or whatever. So if I wanted to join and start playing Burning Crusade when it's available, what advantage would I get if I did what you're doing?
Okay, so here's the thing. They actually are fixing this problem a little bit. So right now, or originally when Burning Crusade came out, in vanilla, the levels went from 1 to 60. Then Burning Crusade, the levels went from 60 to 70.
Right.
So if you wanted to play Burning Crusade content, you had to go through all of vanilla, then all of Burning Crusade. So that takes like months to do all of that content. So with the reason I'm doing it is because I already have a character at like 45, so I can level from 45 to 60 probably in the month, right, at my pace of play. So I get to 60. I have a level 60 now. I can do the Burning Crusade content as soon as it drops, which is like, that's the fun part of having a new expansion, is like doing it all with like everybody, like because everyone on your server is doing that content too. They fixed the problem a little bit though. Like if you wanted to play with us, you can, because they're allowing you to buy a level 58. So you can just like pay Blizzard a little bit more and they'll give you a level 58. And so all you need to do is do the Burning Crusade stuff, because technically you can start the Burning Crusade content at 58. It's hard for you, but you can do it.
Okay.
So I am going to level up a character, my 45 character, to 60. And my brother and my friend Trevor are going to start playing as well. And we're all going to level up characters to 60, probably. And then, so I'll have 2 characters, they'll each have 1. And then we'll do the Burning Crusade content together. And then I'll probably have another character where I can do Burning Crusade content alone.
Nice.
But yeah.
So
yes.
What about the game? Like, I'm not really familiar with the way that like leveling and difficulty scale and stuff work in that game. But why would the quest only be available for a level 60? Is it because there's a story that needs to be set up, or is it because there's a specific type of gear you need?
It's because the people you're fighting are level 60, and when you're a lower level, fighting a higher level is insanely hard. Like, there's the mechanical aspect of the game, but then there's also just like the raw numbers. Like, you're less likely to hit a higher level than you. And if there's like a big level disparity, you're basically never going to hit it, and it's just going to hit you and crit every time. So like if you're like 1 level below something, you have a less of a chance of hitting it, and it has more of a chance of critting you. But if you're like 5 levels apart, you'll basically never hit it, and it will only ever crit you. So you'll be taking like insane damage and not dealing anything back.
So is the game, like, is there a benefit in the game, or is it just because that's the way it's designed? Or like, would it work to you if it was like, oh, I'm level 1 and these enemies are like scaling with me, they're hard?
That's the way like retail works right now, where like you go into a zone and that zone is just to your level, and it's like you level up through that zone, like killing things that are like roughly on par with you. And then that's like a way of like smoothing the curve out a little bit. What was nice about Classic and Burning Crusade is leveling is difficult. Like, to get to the next level is difficult, because almost every fight you take there's a possibility that you die from it. So like you have to be like kind of on your toes the whole time. You can't just like mindlessly do it, or you'll die probably. And so like that made like that part fun a little, like, well, not maybe like fun, because it was, you had to be like kind of like at least semi involved in it the whole time for like hours at a time. So, but yeah, that's kind of like why the level scaling was the way it was, but they changed it for retail. It's like the current, well, not like the classic editions, like the current version is called retail, and that one is stuff scales to you basically, as opposed to the other way around.
Okay. Yeah, I've never really played MMOs, I guess, to like know the kind of different ways that they're made. To me, they're all kind of just the same type of thing. Like, I started watching this guy on YouTube recently. I forget his name. Oh, Nerd Slayer. But he does a lot of analysis videos of MMOs, because he's like a big MMO fan. He talks about all these intricacies of the combat and stuff. It's all like the same to me. I don't get like how right-clicking a guy in Conan, whatever the fuck, or like whatever is different from WoW. You know, I don't, whatever.
I mean, almost every MMO, modern MMO, pulls from World of Warcraft in some way, shape, or form. So if you look at most MMOs, almost all of them pull at least some of their mechanics from World of Warcraft. Just because like World of Warcraft is like the quintessential MMO. Yeah. It was the first. It wasn't the first big one, because there was EverQuest, but it was the first well polished one, basically.
Yeah.
Like, the game had less bugs in it than EverQuest, and less like garbage stuff that was going on than EverQuest. So
yeah. The dude did a video on, I think, EverQuest 2, and about why it basically died at some point in its life. And you know, it was essentially EverQuest 1 was cool and it got a fan base, and then EverQuest 2 was like trying to compete with WoW. It was just like a different thing, and really,
you in the early days of MMOs, like, you couldn't compete with World of Warcraft basically. I think like until recently you really couldn't compete with it unless you were like in a really niche anime MMO. Yeah. And people weren't really like, they're playing it for the anime aspect, not really for the game. But I think that's kind of like changed now.
that there's more into like the world and stuff that people are interested in, or like the
Also, like
games
World
are
of
different.
Warcraft's kind of stale in a
Yeah.
way. Like World of Warcraft really hasn't. It's hard to like innovate when you're the one who's setting the baseline basically, because like everything you do is just the baseline for the game.
Yeah.
So like World of Warcraft had their formula and they've just been like tweaking it and improving it each time and like making small adjustments, whereas like a new game can like completely change it. Like I know in World of Warcraft when you're doing like a raid, which is like the highest form of you versus the computer, because that's like either 10 people or 25 people, or in classic it was 40 people, so it's like huge number of people fighting this like basically like AI controlled things. And in Final Fantasy they changed the way that works too, so it's like it's just you versus the boss battles basically. You don't have to like clear trash, whereas in World of Warcraft raids you have to go through trash, then fight a boss, then clear trash and fight a boss, then clear trash and fight a boss.
Is trash just like low level NPCs?
No, it's they're still high level and they're still difficult to kill, but they're not the boss. They're basically like just like additional stuff that you have to like kill on your way to the next boss fight.
Got it.
So people call them trash because they really are just they're filler content basically on as you walk from one part to the next part.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a big thing too is the subscription costs. I just think it's like a crazy ask to say, hey, this game costs, $120 a year or whatever it is. Like that's insane for a game. But I also get that it's like a living thing and there's services and constantly changing and adding and whatever, but also like you have to keep me interested every month for years. That's insane to me. I can't imagine being on the other end of that, trying to make that worth it.
I mean, they knocked it out of the park for the first 3 expansions. Like Classic World of Warcraft was huge, then Burning Crusade was even bigger, then Wrath of the Lich King was the biggest ever, and it was like, wow, this is so cool, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
And then they kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit. they kind of lost their mojo after that. But yeah, like I'm excited up through Wrath of the Lich King, so I'll probably play through Wrath when that comes out.
Nice. Do you think in 10 years WoW will still be like that go-to thing, or is there anything that will take its place?
I think the genre will die.
Really? Like all MMOs?
I don't think the younger generation of people playing video games are into MMOs. I think that part of what made World of Warcraft so cool was because you could make friends with people online and be really good friends with them and play with them every night. And like I did that. Like I had friends from World of Warcraft that I was like, wow, these guys are like so cool. They're like so happening.
Right.
Like I really enjoy hanging out with these people. And I think like modern people don't need that because now they have like party systems and like Discord and like other ways to organize. And like other ways to like build a community for yourself. So I just don't think that there's really like a world for MMOs anymore. Like maybe there'll be like a few, but I don't think.
That's
I
interesting.
don't think nostalgia power is gonna hold them all together.
The dude on YouTube, Nerd Slayer, had a video about Toontown, and it's one of those things where watching Disney as a kid, I always saw the ads for Toontown. But then when I went to the website and it was like, oh, it costs money, I was like, fuck this. Like, who's ever gonna do this? But it was cool because he had footage of the game, and it's something I've never seen before. But that one looked different. It looked like they were going for kids. It was if I remember correctly, it was like trying to make a Disneyland-like experience for children. And the whole thing is like you can't talk to people unless they're your friend. Like there's these preset, like Rocket League or whatever, preset things you can say to people. And so it's like, okay, the focus is this. We're not going for old people. We're not going for like crazy epic dungeons and friends or whatever. We're going for this cutesy thing where you happen to be also playing with people. Like I think something like that could go, like a more niche focused thing. Doesn't need to be the biggest thing in the world, but if it can sustain, I guess it's fine. I don't know.
I just think it would be hard to find a market now because now if like you're a kid, you can try to play an MMO, which you need to convince a parent to pay for. Yeah. Or you could play, something free or like a one-time cost like Minecraft or League of Legends or Fortnite or Valorant or CS:GO or Halo or Call of Duty or
any of that.
I don't know.
Overwatch.
Yeah, like you could be like, there's like so many other games now in genres, and then like as you become more hardcore, maybe you're like, oh, and I'm into Dark Souls, or like, oh, I only play Terraria or Satisfactory or whatever. Like I think there's just there's so many more games for them to play, and there's so much more used to playing games, and they have so many more people that they know that play games. It'd be hard for them to want to play an MMO.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, that MMO would have to be really cool, but I think most people just want, like, small party multiplayer.
Yeah. I guess I just have a hard time seeing that the entire genre die. Like, parts of it can be kind of infused with other stuff that's maybe a bit more casual or whatever. Like, if you look at Destiny, it's got the MMOE type, like, hub where you can go and meet up with people and talk to random strangers and stuff. But it's not really an MMO. It's kind of like a dungeon thing or whatever. Like, it's an instance that you run into, but it's not like whatever the whole terminology of it. But it's not a proper MMO, but there are MMO elements. And so if that becomes the kind of thing where it's Ratchet and Clank and there's there's a hub world, you could talk to everybody else's Ratchets. It's like, yeah, that fucking sucks. But maybe that's like the thing that people care about, because people do like the social stuff.
Yeah, I think that it would. I think you're right about, like, Destiny probably being, like, the way forward for most MMOs of, like, it has, like, MMO. It took, like, some of the cool stuff from MMOs, but doesn't require you to, like, play an MMO. Right. Because, like, to play Destiny, you don't need to pay every month, right?
Right.
Like, that's just, like, a one-time fee.
Yeah.
So I think, like, that's probably, like, the way forward.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think that they could support something like World of Warcraft with just a one-time fee. I think that would be...
Yeah. No, it's a different... I think
it'd be, like, too difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't think as many people are willing to pay for it. I'm basically paying for it because I really enjoyed World of Warcraft. That's kind of like the only reason.
Yeah.
I don't play the current version because I don't think it's that good.
Right.
So.
Well, cool. Keep us updated on your WoW adventures. You started and stopped this once already when you got burnt out on WoW, so we'll see it happen again.
Yeah, I get excited and into it, and then I play, and then I kind of hate it because the characters that I play in World of Warcraft Classic right now are just horrible at leveling up, so it just takes me forever.
Yeah.
It also doesn't help that it's like, I played for like 3 hours today, whereas like people who like quickly level up will play for like 10 or something. Yeah, like Alex, when he plays, will play like, I played like 18 hours today, and I'll do that again tomorrow, and the next day, and then I'm max level. It's so easy. Why can't you do it? Like, well...
Yeah, Alex has the ability to just like completely focus his attention. Like, he'll come over. He used to come over to my house, and he'll start up a Steam game like that he's never played before, and that I've never played before. So the playtime is 0. He'll start it at like 6 p.m. that night. I'll go to bed at like 2, and somehow the next day at 6 p.m. or whatever, he's got like 30 hours on it. It's like, how the fuck did you?
He played straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has that kind of power. I was talking to, because like my brother is busy with like his stuff. I'm busy with like my stuff. Trevor is busy with his stuff. So I think that it's gonna be easier for us to keep like on pace with each other, even if we don't all play at the same time. Like, I think we can probably like roughly play the same amount of hours in a week. So
yeah,
at least that's my working theory. And like if it all goes to hell, I just pay like $5 and get level 58, and I skip all the boring stuff.
Nice.
All the pain and suffering, basically. But before we move on, did you see the news about Daft Punk today?
I did. I watched like half of that video, and I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I skipped to the part
That's
where he blew
kind of crazy.
up.
I didn't realize that Daft Punk had been around for basically my entire life. Like,
yeah, and it was like, wow, Daft Punk is 28 years of making music, and I was like, what the fuck? 1993 was only... Oh, fuck. One of those moments. But yeah.
Yeah, I was like, dang, they've been making music like my whole life. That's wild. And now they're not there for the first time. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their last album was like 2013. Yes.
Yeah.
A while.
That's what people on Reddit were saying. They're like, yeah, it's been like 10 years almost since their last album. And I'm like, Random Access Memory wasn't that. Oh, it is. And then like Get Lucky has been
right. That was
like
8 years ago.
Old. Then like Daft Punk's soundtrack to Tron is old too.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, okay.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Daft Punk fan. JC is the one who introduced me to Daft Punk, and it was Technologic was the first song that I heard, and I was like, okay, it's cool. It's not really my thing. I liked Random Access Memories a lot, but I know people really love Daft Punk, so I guess I'm just kind of not in the whole thing that people feel.
Yeah, I listen to Daft Punk casually.
Yeah.
The way I describe it. If a song from Daft Punk comes on, I'm not like, this is garbage. I'm like, oh, this is Daft Punk. I like Daft Punk.
Right.
I just think it's interesting how many times like they'll come out with a song and then like 3 years later, like that's all the pop songs sound like super similar to it.
Yeah.
And just like, did Daft Punk make that happen or what?
Yeah.
They just had like so many songs though from so many different eras of music. It's kind of like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Pour one out for Daft Punk. The robot blew himself up. There's a video that Daft Punk released for people who are unaware of what I'm referring to. There's a video that is 8 minutes long, and it's the two Daft Punk robots, and they're walking in the desert, and one of them stops, and the other one is like keeps walking forward, but then he realizes at one point that robot one stopped, and he looks back, and he goes to him. Then he like initiates the sequence or whatever that blows up the robot. And then it's like a bunch of robot dust, and then it's like Daft Punk 1993 to 2021. That's basically, they announced they are done making music. Pour one out.
They are. Yeah. Indeed. Pour one out. But are you ready to move on to home game stuff?
Yes, home game stuff. Did you want to start with your stuff? Or I can go. It's up to you.
Yeah, I can start with my stuff. So I spent some time this week thinking about how I'm going to implement vision.
Like a vision cone?
And a vision cone, kind of.
Okay.
So this is, I want to run this by you first, just like get your take on it.
Okay.
What I was thinking about doing was right now a player node, right? Like a game, not a game node, but like in my game, like one unit for a player is like their visible block, which is like a 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
Then inside of that is a 3x3, which is their hitbox, right? Because I only need to know if they're like intersecting. I don't need to know if they touch on the sides. They can touch on the sides, but they can't intersect.
Okay.
So a 4x4 and a 3x3. And then what I was going to do was take another unit around, another game node around that one as the vision node, right? So it can be like a square, a rectangle, a triangle, whatever. However I choose to like shape that, and just use the collision detection to figure out if something is in vision or not. I think my problem with that though is I need to halt vision if it ran into something. So like if you were looking at a square and your vision was like, say your vision was 4 blocks across and then there was a 2 blocks in the center square, I need to see in the like the leftmost edge and the rightmost edge, however far the distance goes. But in the middle two, I should only see that there's a terrain block there.
Okay.
And that's like blocking vision. So I wanted to ask you about like, do you think that approach of having like another game node on top of everything else that kind of like just handles the collision detection and is flagged as like a vision square for player X is the correct way to go? Or do you think there's like another way or a better way or a smarter way to do it?
Yeah,
I know I'm kind of like putting you on the spot because I didn't talk to you about this before at all.
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't really given that much thought in that kind of a way, like from the perspective of a node. What does that node see or anything like that? And I think your idea makes sense. I would obviously need to like think about it a lot more to know if it's the correct way or whatever. I was thinking of something maybe that is kind of related. So if you think about if we wanted to do, like, for whatever reason I've been wanting to do 3D stuff, like I just think it'd be fun to learn about 3D stuff. But the thing is, and also playing Mario 64, the whole thing is there's a camera, like it's 3D, right? But it's a character who is supposedly controlling this camera, looking at the player. And so if you think about it from that perspective, it's just a view of the world. Like it's a perspective on data that isn't changing. Like the data is there, the castle is shaped this way, the room is shaped this way. This all exists, but there's no perspective to view it. So if you just like, the perspective is generally whatever the person makes visible on the screen. If someone has put something on the screen, which is generally a static rectangle, then that is visible. But if you have the idea of a view or a perspective of this thing, which can see different parts at different times, it's essentially like a filter or a query and a filter. So if you think about like your thing of give me a vision radius and like show me what I can see, and then do something to the results, like paint them a different way or do something different to the way that the thing I get back. then that's a query for the state of the game. Give me something that is within X of player. Give me that. Give it back to me, and then do this transformation. So if you think about it in kind of this way, you can have this very generic idea of a perspective of give me some chunk of the game from this whatever, and then that would obviously work into the way that we have players set up, where we can have a player's perspective of different things. So if we can kind of combine those two ideas into just something that can work for both the vision use case and the kind of general camera perspective use case, that'd be really nice. If not, I think your idea totally makes sense, like for the first, just to kind of incorporate it into your game and see how it works and fuck around with it. Like, it obviously won't be final on the first run or whatever, so I think that's totally fine if that's what you want to do.
Well, I mean, if there is a better way or a smarter way, or you can think of a way between now and 2 weeks from now, when I think that would help, because I don't want to like implement it like shoddily, or like implement in a way that's like a one-off. It would be kind of frustrating. Because that's what I did with Square, because I implemented my own collision, and that ended up not being a great idea, because now I'm changing that completely for this game. This is color tag still, by the way. I only have to have that due by the end of March, so I still have time. For any listeners who are like, why is Yazeed so bad or procrastinating? I still, it's gonna happen. Okay,
believe in Yazeed.
Believe in me, like I believe in Joseph.
But yeah, I mean, I can certainly think of ways that I think we can do that. I think the way that I'm really not good at thinking ahead, or like thinking of problems, or thinking of how things will come up. Like, I'm not generally good at designing stuff. I just kind of have to fuck around with something until I get something that kind of works, and then that's the design once I've fucked with it enough. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's hard for me to think of a good solution without building it. And so that's why I'm saying, like, in this kind of exploratory fuck around, get your vision cone working, and then we'll see the problems that I can't think of at the moment. And then if we want to, we can expand that into this general thing of perspectives, or we can ditch the idea of perspectives, or just whatever. We can figure it out. I just had this idea. Would it be fun or interesting or cool? How we did the videos of us individually making a game or figuring something out. But would it be good if we did that together, where we set aside some time to build something together and try to figure out the problem, and just basically do a technical deep dive of the problem that we're talking about right now, but like live and with maybe some beverages to loosen me up at least.
Yes, I think that would be nice. I think that would be good.
Yeah, cool. Well, we can set up some time to do a like pair programming video. I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, whatever. I just think that'd be fun.
Yes, I agree. Okay, yeah, because it's basically the way I was thinking about it was, if I use the collision detection from the game node, I could, or somebody could take that same logic and apply it pretty much anywhere. But if we're gonna do 3D, that might have to change. Also, like, perspective doesn't exist in my approach, right? Because either vision precedes or it is halted by something. There is no idea that like you can angle yourself so you're like in cover, right, and like see around something. You either like see straight ahead or you don't. And so I think we'd have to kind of address those problems. Yeah,
I guess for this, I'm not thinking of 3D so much. I'm just thinking of in a world where we did support 3D, how would we do it? And I think the perspective thing makes sense. But another thing I think is, like, if you look at the way that we have our home games dashboard right now, we have this very basic version of it where there's views, where there's the dashboard, which is this list of games, and it's static. It doesn't change. You can click on one of them and it's always going to be in the same spot and whatever. But there's different players who can come into it and see different parts of it. I can be looking at the first page of the dashboard. You can be looking at the second. These are essentially perspectives of the same. It's the same game tree underneath. And so if we can think of something that can solve for, give me something that shows the 2D rectangle that I want to be looking at. Like, think about panning on a map of something. Like, if you have an RTS and you have the little square of what you can see, basically moving that thing around. And then also solving for the case of, I want to know what's within this angled, whatever the name for this shape is. This is the radius. Anyway, that shape. If it can give me everything that's within this shape that is kind of projected out from this point, If we can get all that in kind of one solution, that would be fucking awesome. And if not, then that makes sense, because I don't know.
Yeah. I think what I would like is to have at least like a basic implementation of this.
Yeah.
And then to sit down with you and go through it and then to talk about it.
Yeah.
So maybe like 2 weeks away from now, maybe we can figure it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be like, and now you sit here and you watch me write code.
Right. In my head, it'll be less code.
Nervous.
Like, I think, if you come in with like, here's generally how it works, and then we can kind of like, I like doing the surface, and I can just like write on shit, and we can just do a screen grab of the like shared drawing board between us, and we just kind of fuck around and figure it out. We'll figure it out. But
yes.
But yeah. Speaking of working in 2 weeks, just quickly, every now and then I will be doing like just a 1 week break from home games stuff, just to kind of focus on the rest of my life. So this next week is going to be one of those. So I'm not going to really do much home game stuff. I'm just going to be living my life like it's golden, as they say, and then I'll come back refreshed. But yeah, that's something I wanted to note. Taking it easy this next coming week. But this past week I was busting ass. Was working on a bunch of infrastructure stuff. Were you done with the vision thing, or did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are good.
Okay, but yeah, that's a super interesting problem. Like, it's one of the fun things to solve, which I haven't really had much fun solving infrastructure stuff this past week. So last week I had mentioned that I wanted to make Homegames link a Lambda function, and that was I was in the midst of doing that. So for people unfamiliar, Homegames link is the service where when a Homegames service starts up, it reports to homegames.link and says, hey, here's my IP address that local stuff on this network can reach me at. Link says, okay. And when other stuff on that same IP connect, Link gives them the IP address of the Homegames server to connect them in a kind of seamless way. And so it has to store stuff in a shared memory cache to have this kind of mapping of IP addresses. It needs to be available obviously on the public internet over HTTPS, not over HTTP, really anything. I don't want anything over just plain HTTP unless it has to be, which it never has to be. So anyway, it needs to be available over that. And then what's the other thing I needed? That's basically it. Oh, DNS records. It verifies DNS records, so it needs to be able to talk to Route 53, Amazon's Route 53 API, because the DNS records are used to essentially take it from something like 192.1.6a whatever for your or 68 for your private IP address or your local IP address, and then taking that into something like joseph.homegames.link, so then the certifier can generate a certificate for that. It's kind of generally why that needs to exist. Anyway, so it needs to do these kind of general things. And I wanted to make it a Lambda. Long story short, I couldn't make it a Lambda, I think because of like something I wanted to do with a load balancer configuration or something, and I couldn't configure it or something. Anyway, I ended up moving it to Fargate. So homegames.link is now a container, a Docker container, just running one instance of this Docker container in a virtual private cloud. And then that virtual private cloud has a public load balancer that's directing traffic to the one task in there. So it would be round robining, but it's just one. So just going into that one all the time. And that's the update on Link. I guess it's stable and good. Except for the DNS cache on my MacBook hasn't updated yet. So it's still trying to talk to the old homegames.link, and it hasn't updated yet. So every other device that I have has updated, and it's all good. With my MacBook, the thing I used to work on it hasn't. So,
Okay, I got you.
Does that all make sense? Is there like anything that
yes.
It's kind of tough because I don't know how much like exposition to give on homegames.link. I've explained it like a few times on this, but I don't know if there's anything fuzzy or unclear about what I'm doing here.
At least for me, no. I understand in theory all of what you said. In practice, I couldn't do it myself. So it's to me, it's like watching somebody take pictures of a lion. I know what a lion is. I know how to take a picture, but I couldn't take a picture of a lion. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I see it. Essentially, I wanted to make it Lambda, and I couldn't because I think of I wanted to do this thing where I redirect HTTP traffic to HTTPS. And so in the old versions of this stuff, I did that myself in the actual node server itself. So before it would be the server knows it needs certificates to be to have like a TLS certificate to be HTTPS. So it expects a local path with a like a reference to a local path that has this certificate and this private key, so it can run an HTTPS server. And then that HTTPS server is serving like on 443 the HTTPS port over the public internet, which is fine for the one instance. But now that there's this load balancer, which is essentially doing that logic of like actually receiving the request and then giving it to something that I write behind it. So that load balancer in AWS has the option in Elastic Load Balancer to say like automatically redirect traffic on 80 to 443, and all the SSL certificate stuff we'll manage ourselves. So like you don't worry about redirecting to HTTPS or managing your certs. Like just know that you can run on on port 80 in your container, and the load balancer is going to handle all of the TLS certificate and all that kind of shit. So your container doesn't even know it's secure, I guess, and that's the beauty of that. So anyway, link is on that. I also set up the same kind of stuff for Pico de Gallo, which is the Homegames demo app site thing, and the Homegames builder, which is kind of a different thing, because at the original thing for the builder was that it would just build and publish binaries of Homegames, but now it's the ECS task builder, and it's still the old thing as well. So it kind of is a builder in two different ways. So I need to split that whole thing up and figure out what's wrong with that. And then Pico de Gallo is like super fucked. I don't know what's wrong with that one either. So I had to figure out why they're busted. And then once I figure out why those two are busted, I can move on to productionizing the certifier. And then once I do that, I will be able to go back to Landlord, which is the asset service, and then actually implement that. And then after that, work on something else that's not infrastructure and backend services.
Nice. So I guess this is not really a question for anything you had worked on specifically, but more looking down the line is I guess, is Landlord something you want to have done soon, or is it something that you just want to like get a rough version of, or like what is the end goal for you for Landlord? Like I basically want to know like how many things are you going to fit into completion this year?
Yeah, well, everything I mentioned, I think I should probably have done within the next month. I should be working on Landlord by April, probably. Probably be what I come back to after the wedding, maybe. I don't know. But Landlord, what I want it to be is the basic version of someone with an account can authenticate as themselves or whatever, make a request to Landlord to say, hey, here are the files that I have associated with my game. And maybe we don't need to have the association of the game to what we have in code, but just the named thing of a game and that belongs to a person or whatever. So I can go onto homegames.io and say, oh, I want to make a game, or associate assets to a game or whatever. And it's like, oh, what's your game called? And I say dickbutt, and then it says, cool, here's your what's your assets for dickbutt? So I upload dickbutt.jpg. That's my asset. My actual game, I can make it whatever, but the assets I'll need to change to go for a generic URI or URL or whatever to a asset ID. And so once we have that baseline for like the only way that an asset can get into this system is if it's uploaded through like our process, just to verify like what we talked about however long ago about like make sure that if someone uploads littlemermaid.mp4 that we don't get fucked for it because they are uploading that through this thing and they verify that it's them and whatever. So just this very basic like upload download media service that has a very light integration basically into Homegames in the sense that the asset class knows that it's representing a Homegames asset, not just like a generic blob like it is right now.
Oh, right on. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't believe I have any other questions. Do you have anything else you want to talk about for Homegames?
No. I think I'll say that I think the reason that the builder is fucked I know the reason it's fucked is because it needs file storage. It needs a local directory to store downloads to then like serve them out of, because it's not just pulling from S3 and like streaming to the response. It's actually downloading from S3, storing it locally, and then returning from that local cache, basically. I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but essentially the problem is that it needs file access or file system access, but it's a Docker container. And so ECS provides this like 10, 20 gigabytes of persistent storage, but it's not really persistent. It dies when the container does. I think that's the way it works. So I can use all that kind of stuff too, but I have to figure out how to access it. Like I don't know where it's giving me that storage or how I use it or anything. But the other alternative is if I use a specific version of Fargate, I'm able to use EFS, which is Elastic File System, which is Amazon's, the AWS, like essentially you have storage that you could attach to a resource. So it's like a volume of data, whatever. So I tried creating one of those and associating it to the builder task in Fargate, and that had other problems. And so it was just a pain in the ass, again, wrestling with like, fuck this tutorial. Why doesn't this shit work? You guys didn't tell me I had to use version 1.4. Why is it defaulting to 1.3? Holy fuck, who made this? Oh my God, type stuff. But, you know, it's going. Progress is being made.
Would that not be a use case for like something like Redis or no?
Redis for...
for storing it?
I guess it would be if we wanted... so like they're just giant blobs of data. Like it's like 100 megabyte zip of binaries. So for Redis, it's good for like strings and numbers and that kind of stuff. But for large binary data, I don't think it's useful or good. Like, I'm not super sure how they handle binary storage or like what their limits are. But if we have like a really fast, like essentially all I want is like a really fast SSD associated with all these things where it can just read as fast as possible, because the files aren't changing. It's just a file service, you know, it's just giving you stuff. So I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But in my head, it's either the Docker storage or EFS, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. I was just curious about Redis because if we ever had multiple places to like serve that data up, like if you had multiple instances of it. But I guess with just having like a volume, like a shared volume or something like that, you'd be fine.
Yeah, with a shared volume, as long as you're like if you're hashing it consistently, like if I can consistently say version X of Homegames maps to this directory locally, you know, path to X or whatever, and every machine can reliably get this in the same way, then they can all write like and check the same part of the volume and say, do I have this or do I not have this? But the I is any instance of it, not that one particular thing, you know, because it's all shared.
That makes sense. Okay, I understand. Is there anything else you want to talk about for home game stuff?
Yeah, actually, okay, yes. So since I'm not going to be working on stuff this week, this is an idea that I had, and I kind of wanted to plant the idea in your head so we could maybe talk about it next week, so I don't have to work on stuff this next week for us to have something to talk about. So Synovia and I have this, you could call it a problem, but that's not the word. Basically, I'm terrible at doing dishes, and I'm terrible at doing house chores, and I'm a fucking piece of shit. It's the problem. And so I think a really cool thing for me would be to gamify the process of doing chores, the process of like, oh, we picked up the dog poop, picked up the whatever, but having like a, you know, kind of like the way people do, like families do with a whiteboard. And it's like, oh, Tommy did his chores, he gets a pizza, or whatever the fuck people do. I essentially want that, but in a way that's like really nice and seamless. And I think if it was like a way for me and Synovia to define the chores that we have in the house and to kind of also define how we want them to be done and how we prove that they're done. So for example, if Synovia and I want, when you take out the trash, take a picture of it to show you that you did it, and then you get 10 points or whatever. And then like, or, oh, you send a picture off of the trash that has been taken out and it goes to the other person and they have to check off that you did it so you get your points. Some shit like that, right? Like some way for people to define these rules for themselves and like interact with each other in this way. But I was thinking that the problem comes in with monetization, obviously. This is a whole separate idea I had outside of home games. But I was thinking, okay, the problem that you would have is monetization. how do you monetize this? Like, people aren't going to pay for the app because people don't pay for apps. And then also, like, if you want this kind of profile of people, I don't want someone to like try to sell my customer profile to know that I pick up dog shit every week or whatever. Like, I don't want that information to be any sort of marketing thing for me, right? So it'd be really nice. This is how this all kind of leads in. So this is all, again, a separate idea. And I was thinking it'd be really nice if it was a thing that you can run yourself, where all this data was just persistent, but it was on your machine, because I don't give a fuck about it. No one has to make money off of it. It's just a thing that you run yourself in your house, and you can kind of have this like thing where you interact with each other in a kind of passive way with your phone, right? And it's like, it doesn't have to be a game. It's this thing we can kind of check in on, but I'm not worried about the data, because the data is personal to us, and I'm uncomfortable giving that data to anybody ever. And that data should always be on my thing, because it's only mine. So you can build this in Homegames without like many changes. The core thing I'm talking about is just long running, like outside of the chores thing, outside of all that. The core thing I'm talking about is long running, persistent, passive interactions. Like, there's this thing that we know exists always in a words with friends type of way. This is always here and running. I know it's my computer, but it's whatever. And I can just go to this thing and like do my chores or like leave a note or whatever. It's like the whiteboard, but it's long running and passive, I think, is like, that's what I'm saying. As opposed to Homegames now, which is like, get in, play a thing, and it's over. It kills itself when you leave. You know?
Yes.
I don't know. I was just thinking of like, okay, how would we get like, there's a Raspberry Pi. It's always running. It's got Homegames on it. It's running. I know for a fact if that thing is on, I can go to this thing and do this thing with people in my house, and it's not a game. It's like a tool for us. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm getting at?
All right. I will tell you that I at one point tried an app that does do that, where you like define like what chores you want to do, and like every time you do it, you get XP and stuff like that. And the way I got around not doing the chores is I just never opened the app. So I'll tell you right now, as a fellow lazy piece of shit, is that you will find a way to not do it, and like accountability has to come from inside.
Yeah.
But
I think, and outside of the chores thing, like even if it's not for that, but if someone else has an idea where they just want like
a shared grocery list, or like a shared like basically just like a shared virtual space.
Yes, but it's only for my house. A shared
Zen garden. Yes, like a shared Zen garden.
Yeah, because like a shared Zen garden, because the whole thing is like, if I want to fuck around and make something that can maybe give my family utility, there always comes this problem of dealing with the you know, how do I build a website? How do I deploy a website? How do I pay for a domain? Like, how do I build an app? Fuck all this. Like, if you don't have to deal with any of that, and someone can just fuck around and make tools like for their family or for their home or whatever, for whatever, but it's only for them and they know it's only for them, that just seems like there's cool potential there. I don't know what it is, but outside of chores, outside of whatever, I don't know what it is.
I think that's interesting.
Great.
I'll tell you that. I think it's an interesting problem to try to solve. I think that you're doing. We'll talk about it next week, so I have time to mull it over.
Yeah, think about it.
I know you well, and I'm worried if I give you too much excitement, you're gonna just start building it.
No,
so
dude,
I'm gonna be. Listen, we've been down the road before. We're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and then you're like, but I got excited about this other thing. I'm gonna give you cold reserved Yazeed on this one for now. Next week we'll talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. I just think that'd be so fucking cool. And yeah, man, I don't know. It's one of those things where like I feel like I could take a year off of everything else in my life and just do this and get a bunch of shit going, and I can still want to do more on top of it, because everything I have, I can always incorporate it into this thing. You know?
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean, if you think about it, Homegames is very flexible because it's a very loose framework in what it is, right? Like it can support a huge amount of projects because of how loose it is, like what its tolerances are, right? Like if we're talking like building bridges, like it's very tolerant of like weather and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of utility built into it. So
Yeah.
I think like if you were asking like, I don't know if you remember, but in Automata or Compilers class back in college,
Yeah.
When they were talking about when they were breaking down like a really basic OS or a bit like the programming language C or something like that, and they were doing or somebody else was doing an algorithm that could figure out like what their like like the variety of things, like for the variety of problems their like program could solve. They ended up coming back and being like, either it was C or like the kernel for like the first OSs. They were like, yeah, you could solve like a huge amount of problems. I think Homegames is similar to that, where I view it as like just a way to make games easily, like a framework in which to place my games, but there's a huge amount of utility built into it.
Yeah, you could build a whole web application because like the very basics of like, say you wanted a form and a button, and that form could take keyboard input and that button could be clicked and you could have some text and maybe an image on the screen. Like you can get all that stuff with Homegames, and you could build some very basic, just pure like interfaces and stuff that aren't games. You could build like a web API.
I mean, you could host a radio show on Homegames.
Yeah, I guess at some point you could. It'd be like, are you familiar with the app Clubhouse?
No.
It's an invite only social media app, and it's this really cool. It's a voice chat room. It's voice only chat rooms, and you have friends who have interests marked, right? Like you say you're into hentai and you're into video games, and so then it starts recommending hentai video game rooms to you, and it's just like, these people are in a room talking about this, and it's kind of like a topic, like a conversation topic, and it's kind of just talking about that. And then a certain number of people have the ability to talk, and then they can kind of let other people get the mic and talk as well, but then kind of an arbitrary number of people can just join the room as long as it's public, I think. So you can essentially get people giving like an impromptu TED talk on Clubhouse, and then you can get a bunch of people who are spectating essentially and just listening in. And it's like a very popular app. And it's like really nice and smooth and cool and all this kind of stuff. But Homegames, like that walkie-talkie bullshit, we could spend 6 months getting it to be like Clubhouse, like that whole kind of thing. Like we could build that type of thing if we just put the work in to build it. Like that kind of shit is possible, you know? I don't know. I think it's super cool. I'm excited.
Yes, I agree. Homegames is very flexible, and I think that's really cool to work with.
Yeah.
It just has the drawback of sometimes you get, you look at like, oh, I could do this, and then you start to do it, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's been the thing with 3D, where I've been playing a lot of, not a lot of, but I've been playing some FPS games lately, like different types, and I'm just really, like when you try to figure out how to replicate anything like that, you are quickly confronted with the reality that shit is math. Like it's all hardcore fucking math, and I don't know a lot of math beyond what I know. Like I know what I know, and I don't know dick else. So there's like a whole world of just unexplored shit that I can't even, whatever, like vector math and fucking, I don't know anything. So
it's a lot of linear algebra,
yeah,
and vector analysis, vector calculus probably thrown in there somewhere.
Yeah, so
it's been a long time since I did math, and I'm not known for my arithmetic skills, so you are on your own a little bit.
Would it be hilarious, though, if we have this crazy complex math library and it wasn't written by you? It was written by the fucking idiot who doesn't know math?
The irony of it would be hilarious, because the way it would go is you'd merge it in, then like 3 months later I'd be looking at it and been like, why is it done this way?
This dude is clearly fucking
And then I'd ask you on the podcast and you'd be like, I don't know, bro. I had a couple of drinks and wrote it in the night.
If it works, it works. I don't know.
No, I'm not dissing.
No, I know.
It's just very funny to me. I think it'd be hilarious if I was not even at all associated with the math in it. Right now, I'm not really. I reviewed a little bit of it, and I made some recommendations. So that was it.
Yeah, you end up being like the community manager, some very non-Yazeed shit. the chief of hugs.
I would love to be the chief of hugs, but now's not the time for that. Now's the time for Song of the Week.
That was the smoothest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Thank you.
I think the song is done. I wasn't counting.
All right, so Joseph's song of the week this week was Young Thug's "High" featuring Elton John, and a couple of things. One, didn't know Elton John did a collabo with Young Thug.
To be fair,
that was a surprise.
I think this is a sample of Rocket Man. It's not a like. I don't think he got him into stew to do this.
I thought Elton John legitimately like flew down from England to chill with Young Thug in like LA or whatever.
He did do that, but I don't think it was to record this song. But there are pictures of the two of them together. Anyway, how did you like the song?
I liked the song. I wasn't something that I was expecting. It's not a very Young Thug song. I know Young Thug is like the screaming and just like wildness of most of the songs you've recommended, but this song seemed like measured in a way.
Yeah.
And the lyrics had some punch to them.
Yeah.
In a way that I normally don't associate with Young Thug. Like he has a line in there that I liked that was like, you gotta be, what is it? Like you gotta be proud of something, or you gotta be the pride of something. Like you have to be the pride of something. And I was like, damn, Young Thug, why are you coming at me like that? There's a couple of lines. There's like a whole section where he's talking about like his girlfriend or his mom or something like that.
Got a plan for my brother, like, Chanel bag for my lover.
Yeah. Well, that section was more Young Thug than the later section where I think he was saying like what was it? I don't remember like the gist of it was like he went back to his girlfriend and she was like, oh, you're not even like, she didn't even worry that he was lying. He had lied to her or something like that.
Oh yeah. Something told 100 lies or something 100 times or whatever. Yeah. That one.
Yeah. Like that normally Young Thug songs are just crazy to me. And this song had like some real measure to it.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to hear from Young Thug.
Yeah.
If you told me this is by an entirely different artist, I'd believe you. If you're like, this is Elton John with some rapper I don't know, I'd be like, that's a pretty good song. But with Young Thug, I'm like, wow, interesting.
Well, it's like a few months back when I think "Safe" was my song of the week, and you liked that one quite a bit too. Is more of like the slow. He's enunciating in a way that he doesn't normally, like with that yelpy stuff. Yeah, I think that's why Young Thug is probably my favorite person making music right now. It's because like he could just fit on anything, do anything, and he could be on like he can make high, he can make I know there's gonna be good times, he can make how like all the other crazy like weird experimental stuff that he makes, and he does all of it well. So this was my song of the week because Synovia made fun of me for it this week because it came out a few years ago or a couple years ago. It was made like a long time ago, but it was only released a few years ago. I thought it was like fucking amazing the second it came out. I was so hyped on it because I think it had leaked before, and it was like this whole thing. I was so hyped about it. I kept playing it over and over and over again. And it came on the shuffle this past week, and Synovia was like, I remember when you thought this song was good? I was appalled and offended and shocked. And so
you're like, I love you, I'm gonna marry you, but I still love this song.
Yeah, what the fuck did you just say? Yeah, so anyway, that's my song of the week. Glad you kind of liked it. Listen to more Young Thug. He's got a bunch of crazy good shit like this.
I like, I'll be honest, I like songs that are slow and measured and more subdued, and this song like hits a lot of those.
Nice.
The only reason I don't think I would have it on mine is because there's something about it that I don't vibe with, and it might be because I don't actually really like Elton John's music that much.
Yeah.
Like, that I think maybe is what's putting me off from it. But like you said, like "Safe" was a song I really did enjoy. Right. There's quite a few songs that you've recommended from Young Thug that I'm like, yeah, this is a good song.
Yeah, and hopefully he puts out another album at some point soon, and I will have another 20 songs of the week to put up here on the podcast.
How would you feel if tomorrow he puts out a Daft Punk style video saying he's done making music?
That's fine. The fact is, like, he has hundreds, if not thousands, of unreleased songs, so he could stop making music tomorrow and there'd still be Young Thug albums for like years.
Okay.
Like the same way with High. He recorded that I think in 2014, 2015, but it came out in 2018. He has this strategy of like he'll record songs that he knows are just absolute like barn burning smokers, you know what I mean? And he's like, okay, yeah, that's gonna really tear up the radio waves in 2026. I can feel it. And he'll just keep them Like he'll keep them and then release them in this kind of like very planned out way. So as a fan, it's frustrating because you know that like the best song ever exists right now, but he hasn't put it out.
That's really interesting. Is that typical for rappers? Because I feel like you said something similar, but I don't remember if that was about Young Thug or not.
I think it might have been me talking about Young Thug because I talk about Young Thug a lot. I don't think it's like super, super common, but Young Thug, I think, has said that is like his strategy. He'll make great songs and keep them. I don't know.
What a flex. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm really good now, but just you wait 7 years from now, I'm going to come out with a song that gives me, I don't know what the awards are for music.
Grammy.
So one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a...
You realize how uncultured I am when I try to make pop culture references.
It's all right. No, yeah, I don't know. It's like why I think he's the best. I could go on forever, but he's the best. That's basically it. Your song of the week was this little ditty people haven't really heard from this indie band called Gorillaz. The song is called Feel Good Inc. Yeah, I've heard this song 1,000 times. I'm curious why you made it your song of the week. I like this song. It's a good song. I'm just curious. Did you hear it in a new context or?
No, okay, so what happened was I think it was the day after we recorded last week, right? Because I think we recorded on Monday. So like Tuesday, I was watching a TikTok, as you do. Nope. And the joke on the TikTok was like Mozart or something. So like the most recognizable like 4-note thing is like from one of his songs. And then somebody else said, but then there's like a really recognizable 3-note one. And then their joke was that there's a recognizable 1-note one, and he plays like the little ding from the Black Parade song.
Oh, the intro piano, My Chemical Romance.
Yeah. The little like ding. And yeah, so that's like the joke from there. But then I was like, wait, Feel Good Inc. has like probably the most recognizable of any song that I've ever listened to. Like literally like the first like second of that song, you know what you're getting into.
Once you hear that,
yeah, exactly. So that's when I started listening to it again. And I was like, yeah, this song is a banger.
Yeah, it's a song that I've had on my playlist, but like every time I when I'm trying to clean out the playlist, this is always one of the first to go. But then whenever I hear it again, I'm like, oh, I gotta put that in the playlist. It's like I don't want to hear it, but I want to hear it. Every time I hear it, and like the line about lining them up like ass cracks, I'm just like, I just kind of have to. It just takes me out of it. I don't like that bar. I think it's dumb. And then I also hate the laughing, like the end, the just like the crazy distorted blown out laughing. Yeah. There's just too much weird shit in that song for me to like it, but I do like the parts I like, you know?
Yeah, I think that song is just ridiculous in a way that's appealing to me.
That's fine.
I think it's the only way to describe it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would even describe it as like a good song. It's an enjoyable song.
it's a like you said, it's a super recognizable song. It's just all over the place, and I remember when it was new-ish and people were listening to it like in middle school and stuff, and it was a big song. But it's one of those songs where like I don't know how I know it. It's just so prevalent that I don't know where I like know every word from. But I do, you know.
I can tell you where I first heard that song. It was on the radio. And it's probably the only song I remember from the radio. This and a song by Linkin Park are the only two songs that I remember from the radio.
Is it What I've Done?
No, it's from their like their first album. I think it's In the End.
Oh, yeah.
Because that song came out around the same time as Feel Good Inc.
Did it?
So, I think so.
I was thinking of Breaking the Habit, but I think that's their second album. I don't know.
I don't remember even hearing that one on the radio.
It's like a super anime video. In the End is recorded 1999 to 2000. And Feel Good Inc. I think is like 2006.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
If that's true.
2004, 2005. So not that bad, but anyway. Early 2000s. How about that?
Yazeed's memory is you're working as usual, as you can see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was about that TikTok and hearing it and then realizing like, oh wait, there's one that I would recognize instantly. If it like came on at the mall, I'd be like, hold on. Like, you know, like in my head, what I was imagining is that like you're at the mall, which like no one would do now, but you know, you're at the mall and you just hear the opening 2 seconds and then there's an announcement, so they pause the song. You would know what you're going to come back to based on that. Well, there's like a lot of songs where you would have no idea what you're getting into. It could be like anything from like the first 2 seconds.
That's true. The brain is like, I guess, very good at recognizing music like very quickly. It's like within tenths of a second, your brain can know what a song is, which is faster than like robots. It's fucking crazy. So I don't know.
Yes.
At least at the moment. I mean, there's a song, Beaches, or a show called Beat Shazam. That's basically that entire idea. Where it's we're gonna play a song and Shazam is gonna try to find what this song is and you're gonna have to beat it. So it's like, and you're just like, oh, that's Feel Good Inc. And then Shazam didn't get it, and then you win. Jamie Foxx tells you won like $25,000 or whatever. That's the whole show. It's cool though.
That's like Jeopardy for music. You'd have to listen to so much music from so many different places.
That's why it's cool though. I mean, another thing is like there's whole subgenres of music where if you're not into that subgenre, like you don't get it, but it's a mainstream song. Like if you're not into 90s R&B or whatever, there are songs that mainstream America knows because that was so prevalent at the time that now it's like, well, that's like a weird niche and I don't know who that even is because it's like weird how that stuff changes. Like the idea of popular music, like Drake is the only thing I can think of that's popular music now. Like the really, and like Taylor Swift, I guess. But even people don't like Taylor. Anyway, Bubbles.
Oh, T-Swizzy? Carly Rae Jepsen.
Is she even popular still?
Yeah, well, she's used in TikToks, if that's what you're getting at.
Anybody can get on TikTok. It doesn't mean that you're... Anyway.
If me, who doesn't have a TikTok account, is watching YouTube compilations and I hear your song in more than one TikTok, I think that gives you some popularity.
Probably.
Because like I'm not with it, you know?
Yeah. If you're
I'm unironically using the words homie, so, you know.
But yeah, if you're prevalent in the TikTok meta, you're probably rolling in dough, you know? It's probably fine for you.
Yeah, like, what is it? Doja Cat,
yeah. She's great. She's got the Bitch I'm a Cow song. She's got a bunch of good stuff.
I literally only know the one song by her, Say So.
That one?
Yeah, yes.
There's another one that was pretty annoying. You got a booty. Just talking about her butt the whole time. It's a pretty good song. Anyway, Doja Cat's got some hits, but you should look up Bitch I'm a Cow or the original. Just look up Doja Cat I'm a Cow.
Okay.
We'll respect her a lot.
I will look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm trying to not do what I did with Vine to TikTok, but it's also harder to do what I did with Vine to TikTok, where I just memorized all of the Vines because there's so many TikToks in comparison to Vines.
And you're still making TikToks. Vines are finite.
That is true, and it's even more finite because there's a larger number of Vines created than have survived into the modern day. Because basically, like, if it wasn't put into a YouTube compilation, it's gone forever. So
I don't believe that, though. I believe that Twitter or whoever had Vine.
Did someone buy Vine or did it just go under?
Did it? I don't know. I felt like someone bought Vine and then they shut it down.
I don't remember. I thought they legitimately just went out of business. Like, they couldn't pay for stuff anymore. Also, if you're telling me right now that like Twitter owns Vine and didn't do anything with it, I'm gonna be so sad.
Yeah, Twitter acquired Vine in 2012 and shut it down in 2013. So they... Or no. They acquired it in 2012 and shut it down in 2016. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, that was Twitter. So I would imagine they kept that stuff. There's probably some like legal requirement or something that the business would do to preserve them. It seems stupid to not.
It's just magnetic tape of all of the Vines ever made. Sitting in the Arctic code vault somewhere. Yeah. Years from now, somebody's going to open it up and be like, what is this?
Look at all these chickens. Just like, wow.
Look at all those chickens. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That Vine is probably one of like my top two. All right, enough of Yazeed talking about Vine. I do have a rapid fire question for you. That's something I realized while you were talking earlier.
Okay.
Do you make eye contact with me when we're recording this?
No.
I don't make eye contact with you either. I don't make eye contact with myself when I'm doing this. I stare at just the general computer screen.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at you in the eye right now, but generally speaking, when I'm talking, I just talk over here. It's what I do in real life too. I have a hard time like looking at people, so I kind of just, I've realized recently it's weird, but I'll just like find one area of the desk and stare at it while I talk to you right there. And I'll be like this, talking. So I got to fix that, but no, I don't really look at you most of the time.
One of my coworkers told me that she's training her kids to make eye contact.
Yeah.
And the way that she does it is how you train a dog to make eye contact, and it really cracked me up.
How do you train a dog to make eye contact?
You take a treat, so candy for a child or like a dog treat for a dog, and you hold it up to your face and you give it to them when they make eye contact, and you build a positive relation. You build like a positive feeling with them to make eye contact with people.
I have a hard time because I have this like thing in my head where I know I need to break the eye contact every now and then because otherwise it gets too intense. Because like if I'm just staring into your eyes for 30 seconds while you speak to me, that's fucking crazy. Like I need to break it up. Is it? I think so. It's so
Is
intense.
It crazy or is that normal but you're weird?
To me, that's crazy. Like I need to break it up to at least like, haha. Like fucking like look somewhere else before I look back in your eyes.
Ask Zenobia. She's the only regular human we know.
That'll be my update for next week. What is the proper eye contact etiquette?
It's, you know what it probably is that you get uncomfortable because I get the same thing. I can't make eye contact with anybody, and to me, it's I know I need to make eye contact, but I get uncomfortable from it. So when I make eye contact with somebody, I get uncomfortable, and I'm like, I have to look away. It's like I literally cannot hold this anymore. I have to look at something else.
Yeah, and then when someone else is looking into your eyes, and it's for any more than like a couple seconds, and also you don't know them very well, it feels like you're learning about them in a way that you weren't supposed to. You know, like you see like their soul on some level. I don't like that shit. It's very uncomfortable. It's so intense. I'd rather just weirdly look in front of me at the ground and talk to you.
I'd rather just not. I'd rather just close my eyes and talk. Just pretend I'm blind or something. Just wear an eye patch.
I like the close your eyes and talk. That seems like a future I'm down for.
Well, I think I do close my eyes when I talk because I don't actually remember visual information from when I was talking.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, there's not much interesting visually happening. You're just looking at me, looking at you.
Well, no, I mean, like, even when we're, like, in person.
Oh. Well, yeah, you're in this...
I feel like I just turn off different things, and I'm like, close eyes, talk, open eyes, we're done talking.
Like a robot. A young Mark Zuckerberg in the building.
Apparently my mom had never heard the jokes that Mark Zuckerberg was actually a lizard person. Yeah. And so when I made a joke about it, she started cracking up because it was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Those I feel like the pictures of him at that one Senate hearing or whatever the hell it was, when he had to like get the little lift up on the chair and he had the really weird eyes and like whatever the fuck was going on with his face that day, like that day will forever make him a lizard man in pop culture. Where
he had no emotion, then sipped water, then smiled, like as if he was like told to do all those things in that order, where he was like, serious, drink water.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look,
it really cracks me up.
If you look at pictures of him when like Facebook was starting and look at him now, it's like they really did put him in the lizard society. Like something changed, something is different. He just looks off. I don't know, man. No disrespect to Mark Zuckerberg, but fuck that guy, man. I don't
know. I can't. He runs all of my programming work. So, all right, Joseph, do you want to take us out from this one?
Yes, that is going to do it for us this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, our music is done by our friend Tynan. He is at Nytan on Bandcamp. That is Nytan, Nytan. Our website is homegames.io. You can find us on Twitter at homegames.io, or you can send an email to podcast@homegames.io to have us read your whatever you send us on the podcast. Anything else, Yazeed? Have I forgotten something?
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.